Hello, bonjour, bon année, or as they say in English, Happy New Year. I just thought I'd take this opportunity while I'm on my own. Duncan's gone to work, Sharon's in India, and I thought to myself, I can't go out, the weather is awful. It just doesn't seem to have stopped raining again for a while. I don't even really want to go out in the car. So I'm here. I'm considering re-looking at my packing because we go away on Saturday. But I thought I'd just have a catch up with you. This will probably go out, or it will go out while we're away, but I just thought I'd let's have a quick chat. So I hope you all had a good Christmas, and I hope you did something really nice on New Year's Eve. We had it was quiet, and I've probably said in another video, when it's just the two of us, it's going to be quiet, isn't it? But we did do something different on Christmas Eve, or what they call it in France, I think it's the Réveil de Noël or something. I'll put it on the screen when I so you get to see what I'm trying to say. And I think I said in a podcast, I don't know if you saw it or not, but I did say in a podcast that our neighbours, our French neighbours, did ask us what we were up to this year. It's because they weren't seeing their children. One daughter she had an operation on her knee and wasn't really up to doing anything, so they decided that they would have their Christmas delayed by a few weeks, so they didn't quite know what to do with themselves. And we did say, well, our Christmas Day is the 25th, whereas theirs is the 24th, and they always, I've done a video a couple of years ago where their Christmas, as I say, is Christmas Eve, and I feel that they miss out in a way. They probably all do it slightly differently. We've all got our way of slight family traditions, haven't we? But they tend to have their main Christmas is the evening, where they have a meal of about 5-6 plus courses, and open their presents then. Whereas us, we're sort of thinking we're just doing our last minute wrapping and maybe preparing the vegetables for the next day. If we got young children, then we're trying to get them off to bed before Santa arrives. So it's very different for them, and we did feel a bit for them being on their own, so we invited them here to us, because obviously we haven't got young children around, and the most I do is have a few glasses of Baileys and sometimes prepare my vegetables. But we decided to invite them over for apéros, and we had quite a lot of mise-bouche, the little taster sort of pastries and things. Yeah, so we just had that and a good old chat as we usually do, and played some card games. So it's always a good laugh. And before we knew it, it was getting on for 2 o'clock in the morning. So it was quite a late day, or night, shall I say. But it's just as well we didn't have anybody coming the next day, really. Consequently, we exchanged presents. They bought us like a hamper with, I think it had pate in it, confiture, which is like a jam, and some gorgeous white chocolate chocolates, basically, with a soft caramel centre and chunky bits of, they were lovely. And some little, they're like a biscuit stroke cake with apricot in the middle. There was a little pack of those, a bottle of fresh orange juice, apple juice. So yeah, it was a lovely, and a big bottle of artisan beer. So this was all in that little basket that they gave us. And I'd already preempt, obviously, that we would, because every year we never really know if we're going to get each other anything. But being that we'd been away with them in 2024 in June, if you remember, and we took them to London. And I decided to go on to, I went to Vistaprint, but there's a lot of sites that you can obviously do this on, and made them a calendar of all the photos that we took while we were there. And they were thrilled with it. And she said, oh, this must have taken you a long time and all that. So even though it felt like they'd spent quite a bit of money on us and we didn't spend much on them, I think it was appreciated that it obviously took me time to put that together. So yeah, so that was quite a nice evening. Then the next day obviously was Christmas Day. We got up reasonably early, I suppose. Duncan was a bit later than me, but he was a bit hungover. Not too bad. I mean, we didn't feel like we'd done lots, but something about I don't know if it's the beers he had or the mixture of the foods, but he did have a little bit of an upset stomach, and he was just exhausted, really tired. He doesn't seem to be able to sort of drink like he used to. I made dinner for both of us, but he wasn't really up for it, but he did eat it. And we sat here most of the time just watching TV, watching lots of films, which was quite nice. And it was quite getting on for tea time before we decided that maybe we should open our presents. We don't get quite as excited as we used to. Yeah, it was nice. Duncan bought me this necklace. I don't know if you can see properly, because I gave him a list of all different necklaces that I'd seen. And he'd kept sending me, like you do, the Amazon links and things, and I just kept ordering those because he's the most difficult man to buy for. If he needs anything, he's going to buy it, and I think that we're at that age now, aren't we, where if you need something, you're not going to wait till Christmas for someone to buy it for you, or maybe your birthday, but you'll get it if you can afford to get it. So you end up racking your brains trying to almost find something that you're going to need. So I just basically, as I said, ordered everything he had on his list. I'd asked, there's quite a few necklaces. In my head, I got the measurements and I wanted a chain that was longer, because quite often when I'm wearing things, like even like this, now you can't see the necklace, and I thought if I could get one with a longer chain, then I'd be able to wear it outside of things. But somewhere along the line I got my measurements wrong, because when I opened it, I'm not going to lie, he knows I was a little disappointed, because I swear I said, prefer this long because I've got lots of necklaces at this length. And he said, well, I just used the link you gave me, and that's what we got. And then when I looked, he's quite right, because even if I had specifically said the length, it was this length. I got confused, I think, with my centimetres or my inches or something. Anyway, but they're really sweet. This is a lovely blue one. And he also got me this one, and this is, again, as always, it was much smaller than it looked in the picture online. I think it was from Etsy, but it's got a lovely sort of, almost like a moonstone. I'll put a picture of it on anyway, but it's like a moonstone one, and apparently the chain is stainless steel. So I've worn that since Christmas, and then today I decided to have a change. So yeah, what else did he? And he got me something. If you're watching my upcycle and sewing challenges video, my other channel, I'll talk about that in one of the other videos. And it's a clapper, so it's like a tailor's thing, where it's a heavy wooden thing that when you press things, if you're making seams and pleats and things, and tailors use it to get a good crease and good seam. They got me that, and I also asked for a tailor's ham. Any of you sewers will know what I'm talking about. I've been meaning to make one for myself, but I just hadn't got around to it, and in the end I thought he needs to get me something, obviously. So I gave him the link, but somewhere along the line, not being a sewer, he thought the tailor's ham was another version of the clapper. So I didn't get that. So somewhere along the line again, I will either make myself one or maybe it will appear on my birthday, I don't know. What else? Oh, when he got my, anybody that knows, I think it was around the 70s, 80s, Giorgio perfume. It's in like a yellow and white striped box. My absolute favourite. He's got me that for the last few years, and so he just really replenished. So I've got that. I can't think what else there was. But I got him a new tool bag because he wanted one for work. A long, narrow sort of torch that he can use in small spaces with his electrical work. Got us both a pair of Christmas socks. Yeah, there are others. If I remember, maybe I'll try and put photos in, but you know what my memory's like. So yeah, so we had a nice day, but it's not like it used to be. When we, you know, especially myself, because Duncan's never had children, other than mine, of course. But when the children are little, Christmas is so different, isn't it? You know, because it's just hectic and you just have everybody round. Everybody used to come to us, so it was my children and my parents. So it all used to come to us, and as they got bigger, the families grew, and it just got more and more. So it's nothing like that now. I think last year we had Sharon round for Christmas, but she went to the UK this year. Yeah, but then come Boxing Day, sadly, we had a funeral to go to. Friends Max and Julie have heard us talk about before. Father died just before Christmas. And I've said about this again in another video, that when we went to our neighbour's funeral, they do it very quickly. I think it's like within about 6-7 days usually, that from the day they die to when they're buried or cremated. And being as it happened at an awkward time, they were actually asked to do it on Christmas Eve. So that wasn't the best time, was it, really, to have a funeral? And it was all a bit rushed for everybody. I can't think. And how horrible to have that memory. Every Christmas Eve was the day that you buried your father, you know. So yeah, so in the end they opted for Boxing Day, which I'm not sure only what countries have Boxing Day, I'm not totally sure, but obviously in the UK we have Boxing Day, and I think they do in Canada, but anyway. So yeah, so that was our Boxing Day. It was sort of in mid-afternoon, and it's about an hour from here where they live. So we drove there, but it was very quiet, very as sombre as it's going to be. But Max, who's our friend, she got up to say a few things, and it was a very simple ceremony, sad but simple. We hadn't intended on staying for the wake after, because we thought Duncan had got work the very next day, and we thought it's an hour's drive. In the end, George sort of swayed along with everybody else, and Max's mum, so I haven't seen you for ages, so that we could have a chat with her, we decided to stay for a couple of hours. So yeah, so that was, and it was an opportunity actually, because as you probably know again from other videos, we did actually get a new car that arrived 2 days before Christmas. So it was ended up being like a Christmas present to us. Both our old cars, and they're 15 years old, each of them, are sort of getting to a point where we think, somewhere along the line we're going to have to get another car. And being that we live in the countryside, you need a car. Duncan obviously definitely needs a car for work. Not that he's going to use the new car for that, but he then had a choice of which of the older two cars does he use for work now. As it's turned out now, he's going to be using my car, which is a right-hand drive that we bought over from the UK. His is a left-hand drive Fiat Panda, but someone's been trying to tell him, we think, to get rid of it. He had a problem with the clutch. Then within 6 weeks he had 2 stone chips in the screen. The first time he got a new windscreen done, they got that replaced. We couldn't believe 6 weeks later it happened again. He said, "Oh, I can't. Someone's trying to tell me to get rid of this car." So we decided, in the end, we'll get rid of the Fiat at some point, and he'll drive mine, even though it's going to have to get used to the right-hand drive again. So, getting back to my story, we decided that obviously we were going to this would be our first proper drive to the funeral in the new car, so that was quite nice. And it's because it's new, it's a bit more computerised, and it's not an expensive car. It's only a Dacia Duster, but it's great for us, and it's nice and chunky. I love the fact that it looks meaty, as I always say. It's got a big bonnet and everything. But the downside of that is the bumper makes it a little bit more difficult. Not the bumper, the bonnet, or the hood, as you Americans would call it, makes it hard to judge. If you can imagine, the country lanes aren't the same as being on a motorway, but the two laned ones that are marked, it's a bit easier because you can use the white lines to judge and keep an eye on your mirrors and judge that you're in the middle. But the car also has, which some of you have probably got, it's like an assistance that if you go too far the left or the right, it sort of nudges the steering wheel, which Duncan didn't like. Neither of us liked to be told what to do, and this kept telling him to keep straight, and he ended up turning that off. He couldn't be dealing with that. Excuse me. But yeah, so it's got lots of things like that my car's not got. Like it's a push button start and stop, and there's no handbrake. All of these things we're having to get used to. But yesterday I did go out twice in the car on my own. I found it more difficult with Duncan in the car driving it because we're both in love with this car, both worried about, because it's new, that it's our new baby, and worried that something's going to happen to it, and still getting used to it, that it was difficult for Duncan. He couldn't just relax in the car. It's like, "Jan, be careful that side, Jan, don't do this and do that." Because he'd driven it a little bit more than me, he could see what was happening on the dash and all that, whereas I'm still getting used to it. And I thought to myself, I'm sure I'm going to be better on my own when I've got to think, rather than sitting driving and waiting for Duncan to tell me what to do, because that's just the way things happen sometimes. So yesterday I had to go to the doctor's, and then I had to go out again in the afternoon, and I loved it. I really enjoyed it, and I even parallel parked it. Because it was so big, I was worried about getting in a parking spot, and I did it. But obviously it's got the rear cameras and they assist you, but I couldn't believe how simple it was with these cameras, and I thought they were going to really confuse me. I mean, Sharon's got a camera for her reversing. She still finds herself using the mirrors instead, and Duncan's the same, whereas I found it so much simpler. So I mean, that's good. Good start to the year. New car, new clean car. Unfortunately, I had to take the rubbish to the recycling yesterday in the new car. Didn't like that. Dirty stuff in my new car. But it's fine. I've put a blanket in. So there's nothing dirty in the car, other than one of the normal rubbish bag had a hole in it, so it did leak a little bit. So I just took the blanket out and shook it, put it back again. So it's all still pristine. So yeah, that's our start to the year, other than New Year's, of course. New Year's Eve in France is Saint Sylvestre, and as you know, if you've been watching a while, you know we normally spend Saint Sylvestre with our French neighbours, Nassie and Leon. It used to be some other neighbours would join us, but that sort of seemed to peter out over the years. So it's generally just the four of us, and sometimes Sharon. The last few years Sharon's been with us. And this year we had Frank and David, if you remember. They're not immediate neighbours, they're in the village, but they joined us this year. They were actually managing to be in France for New Year's this year. And it just made a nice change to be, there was 7 of us. We had, as we always do, we'd ordered our food for the evening from a restaurant, not our local restaurant. A couple of years previous, it's not been as good. And I think when they took over, when the new restaurant, when it opened with the new owner, a new chef, he wasn't doing it. So we decided to go to another restaurant in a nearby town, Umbriella Valley. So we did that last year, and the food was delicious. So we decided to go with that again this year. And Mark and Adam, again, you've heard me mention them before. They now live in Lassay, the chateau, and they were wondering where can we get our food for New Year's. And so they give me their order, and I put their order in as well, and they absolutely loved the food as well. So yeah, it worked out really well. There was a bit of a standoff between us and Natalie and Leon because we couldn't remember whose turn it was. Last year we did go to Sharon's, and I remember that because they give you, some of the food was in like a plastic dish, and we had this debate about, we didn't want to spoil, because it always looks very pretty, we didn't want it to be spoiled by taking it out of there and put it in somewhere else. So we were deciding where should we warm it up, and Leon said, oh, it in the oven, like in the oven. And I said, but I'm sure these dishes aren't going to last. So anyway, we went along with it. We did what Leon just said would be okay, and needless to say, we got these dishes out and they melted. So I think this year they learnt from that, but it didn't spoil the food at all. It was lovely. So this year, we say it was a standoff, and Duncan and I started buying stuff to be ready to have them here, secretly thinking, oh, I really didn't feel like doing it this year. I didn't want, I've been getting a little bit anxious about any social events in the last year for some reason. Don't really know, it might be hormones. So I wasn't really looking forward to it, even though we thought it probably is our turn, but we didn't really know. And I thought if I look through the old photos of New Year's Eve, it'll have a date on it, and then I'll eventually work that out. But I couldn't find any photos, and that's bizarre. So just as we're accepting the fact that they're going to be coming to us, we got a message a couple of days before from Natalie saying, come and eat with us. Obviously I didn't argue. And I thought, oh, thank you so much. But it did, being that we'd bought stuff, it did enable us to take stuff with us. Like we took sparkling wine with us, and we took cheeses with us, all this sort of thing. So we'd contributed, but they were hosting. And so Leon and Natalie, between them, insisted we didn't help. They haven't got a very big kitchen, same as we haven't, so there's not room in the kitchen for all of us anyway. But it turned out really, really well. Frank and David, being vegetarian, aren't always as keen on the French meals because they don't always do really well. Very often if you go to a restaurant here and you're vegetarian, all they do is take the meat out and you get the vegetables, so it's just a bit of a shame. So they said they would bring their own, and they brought a lovely big bean stew and some bread, but they were going to have the dessert, so we ordered dessert for them, which got a bit complicated, but I'm not going to go into that. But basically we ended up with this bûche de Noël, which is like a chocolate log, but it's much lighter. And so we've all had a few drinks. I'm going to slot in some photos and everything, and so I had to say that because you'll see in the photos it's obvious we've had a few drinks.
taser. How do you get tased?
Prune. That's me.
What, no prune?
A prune.
Oh,
new character.
Attention, oh, boom.
But we had a really good laugh. I think Sharon left about 1 and we went home probably not long after her actually. So it was another late night, as New Year's usually is. Yeah, also I've been trying to get back into sewing for the new year. I've as you see, if you watch my other channel, I made a dress recently, so it's been taking up a bit of time, but that's finished. I've just recently started something else that I was hoping to take on holiday, but I'm not sure that's going to happen. We're having the usual debate on what to take. We're actually running to the sun because I think I've said to you before, Duncan does suffer with SAD, and I'm starting to think I do a little bit, but this year and last year's the winters have been so horrible, which is something I think with global warming we're just going to have to get used to. So we sort of find somewhere that didn't necessarily have to be hot, but the sun's shining. So we're going to go to Morocco, and it's not really hot. It's going to be like low 20s. I don't know what that is in American temperatures, but low 20s is still quite nice. It's warm, but the evenings will be cooler than we used to. So it's really difficult to know what clothes to take. And as you'll know from previous videos, we travel light to keep the cost of the travel down, but we thought because we're going to go for a longer period of time, we may have to take another bag to make up, because we may have to take things like jeans. If we go out for an evening, it's probably going to be a bit cooler, so they're a bit heavy and a bit bulkier, and we probably have to take some sort of coat, not a big heavy coat, but something that we can put on in the evening because it's going to still feel a bit cooler. So yeah, so there's a bit of a debate going on at the moment on what to take. I've already got my pile of clothes there, but I think I'm going to have to go through them again. We haven't got a problem with taking less clothes when we go away and washing them while we're there, and as it turns out there is a laundrette there or nearby, so you know, we'll take like a week's worth of clothes, get them in the laundrette, and then ready again for the next week. Everybody there is not going to care what we're wearing, you know, and we're not going to care what they're wearing, so you know, it's why do we worry about taking so many clothes? Obviously on Monday it was the 6th, so I took all the decorations down. Having said that, I've got one decoration up here that Duncan screwed onto the post, and I keep forgetting to go up and get the screwdriver to take it down, so there's one just hovering there on its own. And there's one up there that Duncan tied too tight on the screw, and I can't get it off, so there's another one I've got to get up there, because get this chair up there or something and cut that off. So other than that, we're back to normal. We didn't put too much up this year, but it still feels a little bit naked, doesn't it, afterwards? I think I've already mentioned, obviously Sharon's in India, so she's been there a day and a bit now. When she arrived, it was a bit wet and misty, which is a shame, but hopefully that will change for her as she travels around. She's gone with Saga, and they do a tour. So it'd be nice for her to. She's gone on her own, so she's hopefully going to be getting friendly with people, make friends while she's away, and it'll be good for her. I know she's going to come back and she'll be so chuffed that she did it. She was a bit anxious when she left. She had problems before she left because she'd been over to the UK. She took our friend Jackie over with her, and then they came back together. And on the ferry coming back, she got back to the car, and the men that were looking after the cars and that on the boat said, "Is this your car?" And she got a flat tyre. So she had to get them to help her, and they had a bit of trouble getting the wheel off, but thankfully she had the temporary wheel in the car and she put that on. So she said she could feel a difference with the driving when she got this other tyre on, but you can only go over, as you probably know, over a certain speed, so she couldn't drive very fast. So coming home took a bit longer. But since she's been back, there was very little time between coming back and leaving for India where she could get a new tyre put. I mean, if we'd have gone and insisted at the garage, she might have got a new tyre. And she did intend on just using the car with that tyre to go to the airport until she realised how many miles she'd done or kilometres she'd done, and realised this is taking too much of a risk. So I think she's a bit frustrated. So she asked to use one of our old cars, and in the end she took Duncan's old work Fiat to get to the airport. And that, we felt quite responsible for that actually, because she got this, we'd got this stone chip in the windscreen, and it had cracked a little bit, but as you know, windscreens have got multi layers for safety. It wasn't going to shatter, but it was nonetheless, and thankfully it wasn't blocking her view or anything. So if it came to it, she'd have to say to the police that it just happened. And as I say, the clutch isn't great because it's an old car, but in the end she said, I'm not worried. If you're not worried about the car, I'm not worried. I just want to get to the airport. But neither of us slept the night before very well because we were worrying about her getting there. So the next day all we was doing was waiting for her to send a message to say she'd arrived at the airport. And once she did, it was like, oh, we can just relax. So yeah, it's and also by the time she took the car the night before, and when she popped round for something, and she said, I have to just say, I don't remember the crack being as big as it is, and just overnight it was so cold, we think it had caused the crack to go right across. So we felt even more responsible then, but as I say, she wasn't bothered. Anyway, she got to the airport. She was flying into the UK, and from the UK she was then going to have to go to another airport. So it's just a bit of a journey she's had to do. So thankfully she's there now. She'll get a good holiday. We won't see her for ages because we overlap. She arrives back here about the 16th of January and we leave on the 11th. So it's going to be really strange, and hopefully she won't feel too lost with us here, not here, but she'll hopefully just relax, do her knitting and things. So yeah, there could be lots to tell. I've got a sneeze coming. Yes, so there'll be lots to tell you in podcasts coming about our holidays. We are going with a French company actually with ours, so it usually means that wherever we go, I'm going to sneeze again. Wherever we go, there's more French people than anything else. And I think as far as I know, in Morocco they speak French anyway. So we don't get to speak English very much, I don't think. But we're going somewhere that's all inclusive, so there'll be no cooking. But the downside could be that Duncan won't, because he's got the superpower of never putting any weight on, but I'm probably going to come back a fair bit heavier. I think it's going to end up with us having to do quite a bit of walking, but we must avoid too many steps and hills, because that's what I ended up with, really bad knees after our last, not Italy holiday. Last time wasn't too bad, although the pavements were still a bit uneven and here and there because the roads weren't looked after very well in Crete. But yeah, so we're going to have to do something. In some ways, I was hoping there was going to be a gym at the airport. I was hoping there was going to be a gym at the hotel, but there isn't. So walking is probably going to be the only thing, because I don't swim. Otherwise, I'd be swimming to try and keep the weight down. All that being said, I'll just have to come back and be good, won't I? I'll try and be good while I'm there, because we'll definitely be eating more than we would at home. So if I'm we'll be in there for a few weeks, so I mean, I'd hope that I'd stop and think, hang on a minute, Jan, you wouldn't normally eat like this. What do you think? Do you think I'll stick to that? So, as I said, I had to go to the doctor's yesterday. This is my first trip out on my own in the car. I had to get my prescription because I need all of my pills for the whole time of there, so I need quite a few. And it was only me in the waiting room to start with, and then this lady came in, and she came in and dragged the chair away from me. I thought, rude. But I found out why. Because she sat there and she had the most awful cough. I just thought, why did you even come to the doctors, you know? But obviously she had to. But I wish she'd worn a mask, because I was so anxious sitting there. I was on my phone just playing a game or something, and I thought, if I turn away, it's going to look really rude. So I just sort of kept doing this, trying to cover it, so I didn't get any of that. But when I went into the doctor, I did say to her, there's a lady out there with a really bad cough. I said, I think perhaps she should have worn a mask, and she just sort of rolled her eyes. But hopefully I haven't caught anything off her. I mean, I'm sneezing, but that's nothing unusual for me. So many things make me sneeze. So it's never a sign necessarily of anything coming about. But everybody keep your fingers crossed for me. Mind you, by the time you see this, fingers crossed, it'll be too late. But I'll let you know when I come back. I've been trying to think of things to take with me, actually, because, as I say, we're there for a while. It's such a cheap package deal, it's ridiculous. So we've decided to do 28 days. We've never done anything like that before. But thought, a chunk out of the winter, why not? And for a really silly price. So we're worried now that we're going to get bored. We're going to be taking our card games with us, because we do like a card game. Duncan's got the tablet to pay games on and things if he wants to, and Sharon giving an Amazon voucher for Christmas, so he's bought himself one of those little mini controls for playing games. And so he'll be doing that, and I'll probably do that as well. We've both got books on our phone. But I'm debating at the moment whether to take a bit of embroidery or something with me, or maybe my sketch pad. Don't know. But if I do either of them and I do get anything finished, I will show you when I come back. Talking about cars, it's just a general chat. Honestly, I hope you're sitting down with a cup of coffee, because this would be the same as if we were sitting here together. Duncan was chatting to one of our new neighbours, Leon's niece, and when she's been talking to us about the new car anyway, but she said, what was we doing with the old car? And she said about she thinks her mother might want it, and we're thinking, right, for someone using it for work, because you can imagine Duncan's been using it for work, and it's quite dirty really inside and everything. But the French really value their cars and everything, and when we've looked, and you could get a couple of thousand at least for the car, so why not? He wouldn't sell it for that much to them because they're friends, but yeah, so already it could have been sold, and we won't necessarily have to do much about it. He might have to clean it, or give the seats some new covers or something, just because it's not the same. He gets in and out of that car and he's dirty from work, and the seat, I wouldn't want to sit on it. Yesterday we popped over to the bar because Frank and David are still here. Popped over to the bar, had a few drinks with them, and Max and Julie are staying at Sharon's to look after the cats and the chicken. So Max had to go home, but Julie came to the bar as well, so it was nice to have a catch up with them. Yeah, I don't think there's too much more to report to you. I might do another chat video before I leave for holiday, because I haven't got to say, I can't go out and film anything for you, it's just too wet. So I might go out in the car if I can get the camera set up, maybe take you on a little trip, but again, weather dependent. But other than that, I think that's probably about it. I've had a few, not loads, but a good amount for me, new subscribers, so I'm thrilled to bits with that. If you aren't already subscribed, please do, because as all of us YouTubers say, it really helps, especially us little channels. We're trying to build up. And obviously like the video if you've enjoyed having a chat. If this is the first time you've seen me, although the title's fopy'sfrance, I do, obviously we include our holidays sometimes. I'm probably not going to do much on the holiday side because I've noticed the numbers are very low for that. But although we did, funny enough, with our Crete holiday, lots of them have been quite low, but for some reason, one particular video, and that's our visit to Arcan, I think it's Arcan or it'll be Archan, I don't know. For some reason, loads of videos, viewers, sorry, and I can't really figure out why. Other than there was a little donkey on the thumbnail, but it wasn't a real donkey, it was a mural painting of a donkey. Other than that, it's hard work being a YouTuber really, and knowing what people want. But as regulars will know, I do a podcast as well fairly regularly with my friend. That we're talking about our life in France a lot of the time and what we're up to in France, so it's still worth tuning into and talk about places we've been to. And I expect, without realising it, we're talking about it's just our way of life sometimes and the way things happen here. They seem to be fairly popular. They're getting more popular, but not fast enough. Why aren't you watching our podcasts? And it's much the same as this really, but obviously there'll be Sharon and I chatting as we would on any other occasion, but you get to join us in this conversation. If you're sitting there on your own, hopefully you'll feel a little bit more like you've got a bit of company. And people seem to be enjoying our madness. So we're just being our normal selves, friends, and we do always have a laugh. So if you're looking to have a laugh, something to cheer you up, then tune into the podcasts. You'll see, if you look at the list of my videos, it's the one with the two of us on the front, sort of pink and lilac. We had a picture taken in Le Chateau, and they had just like a little photo frame thing in the gardens, and we just from there. And I've called it "What Did I Come in Here For?" because it's generally two menopausal women who are forever saying, you know, we like when you enter a room and it's, "What did I come in here for?" So that's why we called it that, because you'll find if you watch it that we forget things all the time. There's always little pauses where we're trying to remember something. We still don't always remember it at the end of it, but somewhere along the line we get there. So yeah, we just have a laugh. So if that's what you're looking for, please do tune in. When I can, when the weather's good, I do take you out and about around where we live, sometimes a bit further afield. You do get to a point where obviously you run out of things locally. I try and take you on walks, but I must admit, I do seem to get more views for something like this, sitting chatting to you and every day, a day in the life, than I do other things. It's strange, but then I do enjoy that, watching other people. So yeah, if I have a hospital visit, which, touch wood, I don't have to do very often, but if you do watch regularly, you know I did have a little blister thing from my radiotherapy from when I had my breast cancer after mastectomy. Sorry, I had that recently, but there's not really much to report on that other than it's gone. I'm going to see the consultant before we go away, just to let him have a look, make sure everything's okay, which it is as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, so, and I've received a bill recently for that, because we're covered for hospital, but I don't know if that's only when you're staying in hospital. I've got to find this out. But I think it was 260 something for this little operation, which I'm sure in lots of places that would cost a lot more than that. But it's done and I'm more comfortable now, and that is the main thing. Anyway, I really will go now. I keep talking about I'm going to go. And I will see you in 2025. So please do tune in again and share with your friends if you think they'll the sort of thing they'll enjoy. I expect the majority of you watching are of similar age to me. When I look at the statistics, they usually are. But I can't see why anybody younger wouldn't want to watch an old lady chatting. Anyway, I'll see you next time. Au revoir.